Of all the ways that your client relationships can go poorly, probably the number one way that a good client can turn bad and a relationship that started off wonderful can turn sour is on the subject of the design process. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. So I'm going to go through them right now. First of all, let me define what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here are situations in which you have a client. You've sold them, say, a website. The client has an idea in their mind they want to see realized in the design of that site. You have to interpret that idea and get it over to developers to get that work made into something in reality. Now, to make things easy, you're usually starting with a theme. That's generally the way that's done nowadays. Now, depending upon what kind of a theme it is and the options available, you may have, you may feel that you're 75% of the way there to a finished product in terms of design. But that is not the way that it's going to go. Your client looks at the theme. Their ideas start popping in their head, and they will sit there. And if there are no ground rules, they will come back with literally hundreds of edits. This will happen at least 50% of the time when you're selling something like sites. Clients will want this changed, that changed, that changed, this changed, this changed, that changed. And it goes on ad infinitum, and it becomes an enormous problem. It will eat huge amounts of your time. It'll get to a point where you have to bill the client more money. Then they get angry because they don't understand that they're doing something that is, ridiculous and is, outside the norm. And you wind up just clashing and butting heads, and things go really sour really fast. This happens. This is a real problem. If you haven't sold sites before, you haven't sold any kind of creative process material before, or services or products or anything before that involved the creative process, understand people get very emotionally invested in their ideas, and they feel as though any attack on their idea is an attack on them. That's even if the scenario is where the client wants something stupid. They might want something great, and you're having difficulty understanding and communicating it. So you wind up with these really ugly situations that can form. And I know this very well because I'm a graphic designer. I've done tons of design work in my career. And as a graphic designer, I have wound up in that situation literally hundreds of times, possibly thousands of times by now. It's something that you end up having to deal with when, you go into that process where you have to sit down and there's the client and you have to translate their ideas into reality, and you have to do it somehow efficiently. What I generally do with people, what I generally advise to avoid all those problems is, number one, you have to have ground rules with clients. You have to clearly say, okay, you get X amount of edits before we start charging Y amount of money. That's absolutely crucial that you have a policy like this in place, and you're clear about this at the time you sell the service. Therefore, edits are profiting you, not costing you anything. Really important that you do this, because some clients are perfectly fine with spending thousands of dollars going back and forth on a site design for 2 or 3 months. And if they're paying for it, let them do it, right? If the money's there, the money's there. If the money's not there, that's where the problem is. The other side of this is, having your policy in place there. The other side to this whole thing, though, is making sure that communication channels are clearly defined. The worst thing you can have happen with design is a client that wants to speak to you about design because they feel it's emotional. They feel it's something they need to convey in the verbal tone, right? They need to verbalize it, need to get it out of themselves. So what they'll do is they'll go ahead and want to call you on the phone. If you cave in and allow this to start to happen, I can guarantee you will not get all the information out of them accurately and clearly to be able to convey it to your designers or to convey it to whoever's building the site. Information will be lost. The client then, seeing that they're not getting what they want, it gets provoked to anger. So you caving in, being a nice guy, nice lady, you're trying to be nice for somebody, but really you're planting one foot in the grave for yourself, because now you have a situation where you have to convey by your ear and memory, or maybe you record it, maybe not. But in any case, you're either creating huge work for yourself, or you're creating a situation where data is lost. By making sure that they submit all of their edit requests via email or a ticketing system, either or, there's a record of it. There's a record that these edits took place. very crucial that you have a record so you can go back to the client when billing time and say, hey, we have, 7 emails from you, and we have 14 edits in those 7 emails, or 23 edits that you wanted done, and we carried them out, so we need to get paid. The other side of this whole thing is steering clients. If you do your job right as a consultant and you show a client a beautiful portfolio and you explain that you're a consummate professional and you know what you're doing, clients can trust you enough to allow you more leeway to control the design process. And that's what I have learned to do almost every time. If I'm doing design work, I don't sit there and listen to a client who's not a designer tell me, who is a designer, what I'm going to create for them. I look at their brand, I look at their logo, I look at the important stuff. I get a picture of it, and then I tell them, I'm going to create some drafts, and let's look at those. I don't want to look at, I'm not going to sit there and be a tool in your hand, because that's not who I am. That's not how I work. That's not how this process is going to go. Let them know that right up front. Then when you come back with some drafts, and you can do this yourself, when you show them themes and say, we're going to pick one of these because these are themes, right, that work, that are designed correctly and will properly facilitate what you need done, then, they're in a situation where they look at something, it's a finished product, and they get to select from those finished products. Now, I think of it, designing is part draftsmanship. It's part drafting, going through that process of starting with something crude and then getting refinements in an iterative manner. So, but if I do my job right, if I come back with a very good, solid, say, 2 or 3 options for a design for a site or graphic design, a logo, whatever, if I come back with good designs, the client will look at them, and many times they'll pick one right off the bat and say, done deal, I want that. If they come back and they want some minor edits, well, they're usually minor edits. But if we start with a blank slate, if we are just totally shooting in the dark, if I don't do my job up front, looking at the graphics they already had done, looking at their current site, looking at their brochures, pamphlets, whatever, talking to them, getting in that information and distilling it down and figuring out what they want, then how am I going to create a draft that they're going to like? So I basically have to cue off of what I see to produce something they're going to like, but also something that's going to function. You're in that same position. When you have a client, right? You go to their website. You can see the old site. It's the product of a design process, right? You talk to them about it. Say, who designed your site? Do you like this design? Do you hate this design? Get a picture of what they like and what they hate. Show them themes that are in line with what they like. Get all the edits hashed out right there in one meeting. You sit down with them. You get all the things they want to see changed. Some people are better than others at mentally, conceptually visualizing things than others. Some people, they're like design deadbeats. They just don't have anything upstairs in terms of being able to mentally visualize, or they think something horrible is just beautiful. They just have no design sense. It's just not there. It's like a nerve that they weren't born with. Other people are very aesthetic and very visual. They can conceptualize things easily. When you have somebody who can conceptualize things easily, that person can usually articulate to you much more easily what it is they want. So if you take copious notes and you do your job right, you're going to have a very clear picture of what they want done. People who do not conceptualize well, who do not visualize well, those kind of folks are, since they're not aesthetic, can be sold on a design if they trust that it's good. So on the one hand, you have somebody who knows what they want and is able to give you instructions. The other side, you have somebody that doesn't know what they want, but is willing to go along with you most of the time. The bad situations are when there's miscommunication, when you're trying to apply the wrong process to the situation, when you're trying to take somebody who's visualizing and creative and removing their ability to influence things, or you're taking somebody who's not a designer and putting them into that role and making them do that job. You wind up with just bad outcomes over and over and over again when that is the situation. So to summarize what I've said to you, to just summarize my opinion on all of this and what I see and what we see here at Rocket Driver all the time, when you're managing the design process, number one, lay down ground rules. Make sure that they understand edits cost money, time is money, and then you need to get paid. Number two, make sure that when you're dealing with your prospects, you're very straightforward, you're very honest, but you take notes and you go through the process of gathering as much information as you can to get over to the design department of whatever company you're dealing with so that they can then look at this stuff. They can give you a proper draft. Make sure that you analyze this person. Look at the aesthetic. Look at the things they've done. You know, take stock of this individual and this business. Is this somebody who's visual? You can flat out talk to them about it. You know, you can tell them, look, we're going to engage in a design process. And, you know, this can become a very lengthy process, or it can be really fast and painless. If you trust me, you trust our design department, we can come back with something that's absolutely killer. You may not like it 100%, but we can then tweak that, you know, and show them themes. Get an idea. Get links to sites they like. Show them a variety of stuff. Gather and get yourself as armed as possible. When you do enter the design process, make sure all communication on edits goes through email or tickets so you have a record of what was said when and by whom, so there's no ambiguity. Do not, you know, cave in and get on the phone all the time for your clients. You shouldn't do this in general, but really not with the design process where edits are going on. And at the end of the day, understand that this is a process that you have to maintain control and authority over. You can't let it get out of control. Tons and tons and tons of people sell tons and tons of sites here at Rocket Driver, and our design process is incredibly straightforward and works probably 90% of the time. We don't have any really lengthy, complex back and forth usually, because we understand that if we have good, solid themes, we show themes to clients, we communicate efficiently with our partners are going to be able to communicate efficiently with their clients, and ultimately they're going to pick themes that work. We're going to be able to perform edits really quickly and, you know, usually just in 1 or 2 rounds of edits, very minimum of edits, and we're going to get them something that they're happy with. We're trying always to deliver clients a product, you know, in terms of their website or their graphic stuff or whatever it is, that does the job of marketing and making them money. That's the end goal. We're trying to deliver them something that is going to function, and sometimes that means delivering them something in spite of themselves and convincing them and talking to them and showing them, you know, but not doing it in a rude or judgmental way, but showing them, hey, you know, your ideas aren't going to translate into reality. You know, we still have people, and they're out there, clients that think websites should be built in Flash, which doesn't load on iPhones. So, you know, you wind up with crazy ideas that people carry around with them. You know, you can't discount them because they're paying you and they're your clients, but you can steer them in the right direction, which is ultimately what they're paying you to do. Anyhow, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, leave some comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And, you know, go ahead and check us out online if you're interested in learning more about Rocket Driver, www.rocketdriver.com. I'll see you in the next vid.